So first, we would like to thank the AOC for accepting our IC. And before that, I would like to thank Dr. Prashant also for a last minute acceptance of this presentation. So today we'll be talking about the 3D vitrectomy. I think the people who have used it, they'll be knowing how exciting it is to operate both anterior as well as the posterior segment. So probably this is the first IC in AOC where we are talking completely about the 3D operating system. Because I'm a posterior segment surgeon, I keep on saying 3D vitrectomy, but it can be used for anti-segment, squint, orbit, everything. So we have got a wonderful panel of speakers today. So this is the overview. I'll be introducing, and the basic, the principles of 3D operating system will be spoken to us by Dr. Piyush Kohli, followed by the cataract surgery using 3D vitrectomies, do's and don'ts by Dr. Prashant Bhavanpillai, and we'll be having a talk by Dr. Manoranjan on corneal surgeries, followed by Dr. Charmila, who's going to talk to us on trabeculectomy and tube surgery. Finally, I'll be talking about our publications and how it is useful in VIAS surgery. So this is myself, Dr. Naresh. I completed my PG from JIPMA. So I've been a member of this department since 2000, and recently I've been elevated as HOD, and these are the credentials. I don't want to talk about that. So next we have Dr. Prashant Bhavanpillai, who heads the hospital called Sarakshi Nethralaya from Nagpur, and he's also associate professor at Indira Gandhi Government Medical College, Nagpur. And he is one of the first private practitioners to start using the 3D system. In fact, he's a VR surgeon, but he uses this system for the cataract surgery also, and he has got a lot of experience which will be useful for us when we listen to his talk on cataract surgery. And we have got Dr. Manoranjan Das. He's our senior cornea consultant who is there with us for almost 20 years. And he is going to talk to us on corneal procedures. Dr. Charmila is a senior consultant in the Department of Glaucoma, Arvindaya Hospital, Madurai, and she is also secretary of the IRB of Arvindaya Hospital, Madurai. And she has done a lot of work on nanophthalmos and ADI, and she's going to talk to us on how she uses this system for glaucoma surgeries. Last but not the least, the kid of the IC, Dr. Piyush Kohli, who is a prolific writer actually. So he must have been born as some story writer in his previous this thing. So he has got more than close to 150 peer-reviewed journals in his last 2 years of journey with us. So he's going to talk to us on the basics of the 3D operating system. So with that, I would like to invite Dr. Piyush Kohli to talk to us on the basics of 3D vitrectomy system. Over to you, Piyush.
First of all, I would like to thank Naresh sir and AOC for giving me this opportunity. So I'll be talking on principles and benefits of 3D operating system. I have no financial interest. So we all know the evolution of man. I'll just in brief talk about the evolution of ophthalmic microscope. The first magnifying technique used was a spectacle frame with single plus lens towards the end of the nose. Then came the head-worn microscopes, then the uniocular microscopes, then the current generation binocular microscopes, and then finally the heads of surgery. So the currently available 3D vision system include the Ingenuity provided by Alcon, the RTO 800 provided by the Carl Zeiss, and the Leica microsystems, which are currently withdrawn from the market. So what is the problem with analog microscope? Analog microscope forces the surgeons to assume an awkward posture. Awkward posture for long durations will lead to musculoskeletal disorders. Around 58% of people have reported productivity loss due to musculoskeletal disorders. In another survey, around 48% of surgeons experience occupational musculoskeletal pain, which they directly attributed to the OR. On a long OT day, surgeon puts a lot of stress on his neck as well on his back, resulting in chronic back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain. So the time has come when they develop equipment better suited for the surgeons. So let's meet the 3D system. So the eyepiece has been replaced with a 3D high dynamic range camera. This provides the images to the high-speed image processor, which will ultimately project the video on an OLED surgical display. So let's meet all the components now. The first is there are two 1080 pixel 3D high dynamic range CMOS camera which provides 60 frames per second per eye. So what is a high dynamic range camera? A dynamic range is the ratio between the minimum and the maximum light intensities in an image. So low dynamic range camera can differentiate only within a small range of brightness. Outside that range, features are not visible. So brighter area will appear pure white, while darker area will appear pure black. So this is an example of high range camera, which can image from black to white, while low dynamic range camera will only image from gray to gray. So the ultra high dynamic range sensors allow the surgeons to operate with less illumination. So what is a CMOS camera? CMOS camera, a high dynamic range camera, will need to take multiple recordings, then process them, and then produce a high dynamic range image. On the contrary, CMOS camera will produce high dynamic range from a single recording. So that is why it can produce live image for surgery. So the second is the ultra high speed image processor. It processes simultaneously streams 3D and 2D images and provides real-time 3D videos. The third component is a OLED surgical display. It is a medical grade 55-inch organic LED with a resolution of 3840 into 2160 pixels. It allows surgeon to use high acuity photopic vision to view spatial details and provide crisp view with natural colors. And the last is a 3D goggles. We all know how 3D works. Brain uses the binocular disparity to perceive depth. So what are the benefits? First one is the improved ergonomics for the surgeon. Surgeon can relax his or her body while operating. Believe me, more than the surgeon, the residents love it. The scrub nurses get more engaged. They're able to anticipate next step and the required instruments. The learning as well as the efficacy of the whole OT improves. It's easy to guide young surgeons when they operate. It is not now necessary to stand on the head of the patient and speak to your surgeon whom you are teaching. You can sit a few meters away and just guide him with the help of a Bluetooth. It is easy to switch seats. Now it is not necessary to adjust the IPD and height of the binoculars regularly. So it provides high magnification without affecting the details. It provides high resolution at high magnifications. As we can see, even the smallest area can be magnified and there is no loss of resolution. So this screen will provide better clarity. This is a standard definition screen. This is a high enhanced definition screen. This is a high definition screen, while this is the OLED screen with high pixel quality. It provides an extended depth of field. All the anatomical structures and the instruments within the large vitreous cavity will remain in sharp focus while performing the various steps of the surgery, so you do not miss on anything. There's an enhanced depth of field. For example, in this photo, you can see the mountain range in the front are very sharply focused, but the mountain range that are behind are not sharply focused. Whereas this is not the case with 3D visualization system. Everything is at sharp focus, and you can see each and every part of the retina while performing surgeries. So in analog microscope, at higher magnification, there's a loss of field, especially in the periphery. But in case of a 3D visualization system, there's no loss of peripheral field, even at high magnifications. 3D visualization system reduces the illumination level by 50%. So that means less illumination, lower phototoxicity. So there are a number of filters that are available, which we can use. Blue filter can be used to cut vitreous. Green filter can be used to do ELM peeling, and red free for IRM peeling. Now we can integrate the complete OR. With the help of the data fusion software, we can integrate our phaco machine, our vitrectomy machine with the screen. So now the surgeon can track the key data parameters such as IOP, flow rates, cut rates, infusion pressure, and laser power on the single screen. So it has been integrated with anterior segment as well as posterior segment surgeries. So we can do corneal surgeries, glaucoma surgeries, and VR surgeries with the help of intraop OCT. Even hybrid varieties are available. Here the surgeon can view from the binoculars and rest can have a 3D view. It can even be connected to the cloud. So you can connect to the IOL master while you are sitting in the OT, and while you are sitting at the home, you can access data from the IOL, from the machine. So we saw the utilization of DAVS for high volume vitreoretinal surgery. We found that it is easy to adapt. Also, it has a good quality recording and an inbuilt software. This is a surgery which is being done The DMS is being used to scrape the vitreous. So we can very high definition, we can see the vitreous as well as the retina. It has a large storage area. More than 100 hours of 3D video are available on its internal hard drive. There are a few disadvantages at present. It is a space occupying device. It is costly, but as we know, the cost will definitely come down, and there's a time lag. So there's a bit difficulty in anterior segment surgery. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Piyush, for the overview. Actually, because we are using basically the Ingenuity system, no financial interest, we have not discussed about the other systems of 3D operating, which we don't have personal experience. Maybe for theoretical thing, we can talk about them later. So next, I would like to invite Dr. Prashant Bhawan. He is going to talk to us on how he manages the cataracts with the 3D vitrectomy system. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Naresh. Is my screen visible now?
Perfect, sir. Perfect.
Okay.
Everything is perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you, Naresh, for this wonderful opportunity. And yes, viewers, now we have already heard the physical aspects of the physics and the optics involved in the 3D system. How does it translate into the use during your clinical application? Let us learn through it. Well, this system was basically designed for vitreoretinal procedures, and there is always a big question mark whether should it be used in anterior segment procedures. We were once, it is more than 3 years where I've done more than 3,000 procedures to be precise on this particular system. And I can very confidently say that this system can be as well used in an anterior segment surgeons. Let's go through the presentation. The basic advantage which it gives you is a magnification, which is 24 to 40% more than what an analog microscope offers. Now look at this particular video where we are doing a posterior polar cataract. This too on a screen which is more than a meter big. So everything appears magnified, and in a magnification, even a small speck of dust or even a small speck of a cortical fibers can be well resolved. So posterior polar cataract otherwise is a nightmare for most of us. A fear of posterior capsular giving away. But yes, even this complicated we do. Here I have done a hydro delineation, rotating the nucleus, then cracking the nucleus, and then you can see the ease with which I'm leaving the cortical fibers. In fact, during cortical aspiration, you can see the last of the fiber, which because of the sheer magnification, and you can really do a fantastic cortical cleanup. And then this is the IOL implantation. Now coming to the next advantage is the depth which it offers is more than 11 to 42% depth resolution is seen in this system. So how does it translate clinical practice or cataract? Well, they actually see the various stratas of nucleus, and you will be 100% sure that whether your nucleus, you have reached the last part of it, are you close to the thing? Can you imagine such a high magnification giving you the actual stratas or the layers of the nucleus, which you can appreciate so well at such a high magnification? And that gives you the more confidence to go more closer and crack the posterior capsular plate as confidently as you would love to. This is another case to talk about the depth, where in this particular case, I am just flipping the epinuclear plate which was sticking, and here I'm introducing my instrument behind the epinuclear plate, which is very close to the capsule, and this is surely possible because of the depth and the confidence which it gives to the surgeon. Another place where it is useful is a case of a what we should say SFIOL. You can see the area behind the posterior capsule is blind either to the microscope or to the posterior viewing systems. Well, you can confidently do a handshake technique and you can easily remove it. Another case. Now coming to the field of view, it is 5 times better depth of field you can see. Now look at this eye which has a cataract along with the iris loss. So beyond cataract, I need to do surgery. So for doing cataract surgery and iris repair, you need a bigger field, as well as you would love to have a bigger magnification, and see the confidence and see the ease with which I can do and 4 through knot iridoplasty, just because of the field, the depth, and the magnification which is offering, and you can see a successful completion of the closure of that iris defect. Well, color filters, well, they were meant for retina. Here also we can exploit the use of it. Well, this is a case where I'm using a yellow filter. This is simple halogen light of the microscope where I cannot see a adequately stained capsule so well. Now I would shift my to a filter mode, and now you can see the capsule so well. So that is the beauty of filters, which comes as an additional advantage in this particular system. So beyond retina, is it possible? Is it that Dr. Bhawankule only says about it, or there are publications? Well, this is our publication, which will be in print in IGO July 2021, which speaks about the use of this system beyond retina. Now, let us see some classic difficult cases, so-called. This is a siderotic cataract. You can see the cornea whole studded with, iris siderotic pigments, and the visibility is so poor. By adjusting the filters over here, I am doing a siderotic cataract, a complete phacoemulsification, so through a siderotic cornea. And you can see even in such difficult cornea, I can do. And then I had to remove a foreign body, so we are moving ahead. This is grade 5 or cataract nigra, if that is what we call in our older literature. And even in cataract nigra, you can see I can manage with this particular system so easily. Now, this is another challenging case for a cataract surgeon. This is an albinotic patient, non-ophthalmos, grade 4 or grade 5 cataract and nystagmus. IOL power required was 35 diopter and the anterior chamber depth was only 2.1 millimeter or so. The challenge here was whether we should do it on a conventional microscope, but I opted for doing it under Ingenuity. Basically, the advantage was the sheer magnification and the depth. I could feel that anterior chamber to be as deep as a few centimeters, and so that inhibition of working under a small shallow AC was not there, and well, I could do it. The other thing in a case of an albinotic eye is that the red color gets magnified and it bites your eyes. So you have to use a filter, as I'm using a red-free filter while doing an albinotic eye. So whenever there is red, it gets exaggerated in a digital image. So using a filter like this helps you in toning down that exaggerated red. The second eye of the same patient, now we were more confident, and we went ahead doing a nucleotomy and fragmentomy in spite of a non-ophthalmos, a patient requiring an IOL power of 35 diopters. This is grade 4 cataract with anti-capsular fibrosis. Again, and the level of difficulty you can understand. Well, the basic challenge here is doing a good capsulorhexis. I'm doing a capsulorhexis under this particular system at such a phenomenal high magnification. Once I achieve a capsular complete CCC, then the rest of the job for any phacosurgeon is similar, doing cracking the nucleus and removing it and the lens insertion. This is another one of our challenging cases, which I will share with you. This is an eye with a neovascular glaucoma. You can see the eye is having new vessels, and we needed to do a combined procedure. There is a pupillary membrane, vascular membrane. There is a bleed inside the antechamber when I'm trying to remove that membrane. And under viscoelastic, I'm separating the membranes on the anterior surface of iris, which was there. Then putting a hooks to get the adequate view of the capsule thing. And once the pupil was clear, the rest of the steps were almost similar. Only the challenge in this case was lack of glow because of the vitreous hemorrhage posteriorly. Well, even in such challenging cases, we do use these systems and look at the comfort with which we could manage in rubeotic eye high magnification and the ease with which we are doing it. This is another challenging case, which is a subluxation with a CT, means more than 180 degrees. And you can see that here I have to do a phaco. Phaco I am doing after phaco, hydrodissection, nucleus removal, and then I put a CTR in this case. And well, the lens, after removing the last part of the cortex, the capsular bag, I found it to be a bit unstable. CTR was put, and CTR, see the ease with which I am introducing the CTR, and the surgery was uneventful. Another case where he had a cataract along with subluxated cataract, in subluxation, significant with a vitreous prolapse into anterior chamber. So we did a phaco. Intermittently, we were doing anterior vitrectomy to whatever vitreous was prolonging means prolapsing through this particular zone. CTR, and after CTR, you can see the introduction of CTR and then placing the IOL. So even such challenging cases is not a no for us even under this system. Now, yes, do we use it only for monofocal lenses? No, no, we do not hesitate even to do any of our premium cataract patients. Here is a case just to show you that I have introduced a trifocal IOL under this system. So it doesn't mean that my premium routine patients go here. And the next thing is, this is the last case of my video bouquet where, I should start from here. This is a patient with corneal opacity traumatic. There is a big iris tissue loss, traumatic cataract. So it was a multiple challenges. The level of difficulty of surgery was quite high. Well, we are doing a capsulorhexis through that anti-capsular fibrotic thing. We managed it. We removed the nucleus. Yes, it was relatively easy because it was just grade 1. Putting the lens in the sulcus, and then more importantly, doing an iris repair. For iris repair, you need a bigger field of view, also a bigger magnification you would have to have. Well, use this system, either I would put it in a different way now that it has become a device of choice. And this is the last case where I'm doing a cat with a combined. Again, the challenge here is lack of glow because of vitreous, and then combining it with surgery, which Naresh will share further. So friends, 3D digital made its mark, and its enhanced depth image indicates that the advantage is color and light mapping. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a wonderful collection of cases. You have shown right from the simplest of the case to the most difficult of the situation. And I think this will definitely help people to move towards a 3D vitrectomy, because as told by Gandhi, anything which is introduced first it will be ignored, then people will criticize, then they will learn, and then they will follow. Probably, I think slowly we are into the third phase, maybe fourth phase will come shortly. So with that, we would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Manoranjan Das. He's our senior most consultant from Aravind Hospital, Madurai. He'll be talking to us on how he manages the 3D system for his corneal surgeries. So I'd like to share the slide. Yes, over to you, Dr. Das.
Yeah, good morning, all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizing committee and also Dr. Naresh for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences in corneal surgeries. So going back to the next, that I don't have any financial disclosure to here. And as Pius has already elaborated the system of visualization, which we started with bare eyes and then monocular, binocular microscopes to use, and newly what we are using today is the head-free systems. So the history started with 2010 with vitreoretinal surgeons, and there are a large number of papers who has been already published for highlighting the easy access for retina surgeries. But for cataract surgeries, it all started in 2010, and slowly it is going ahead to corneal surgeries. So this is how we have to gear up ourselves. First of all, getting used to a microscope which doesn't have, and this is how, with all sterile measures, we have to have a 3D glass on, and then going for the direct visualization of monitor and do this surgery. So primary components of this system will be a 3D dynamic camera, an OLED screen, high-speed graphic processor, and a 3D glass. And nowadays it has been successfully integrated with the Constellation Vision system also for cataract surgeries. So this is how Pius has already shown that you will get a 5 times extended depth of field, which enables the easy access for corneal surgeries or till the posterior capsules, if you see for cataract. And this OLED also gives us a very precise color. If it is black, it shows as black and nothing like LCDs. So the main advantage is high magnification performance, superior stereopsis and depth perception, creates a high dynamic range exposure, improves the ergonomics of the surgeon. It can be used as a teaching tool and reduces the hours of phototoxicity. And also it is a multimodal surgeon interaction is possible. So high magnification, as already highlighted, it will provide about 26 to 40% of greater magnification, 5 times better depth, and for 11 to 40% of finer resolution. So this is how the ergonomics is helpful. The system is intended to improve the posture and reduce the fatigability of the surgeon. You sit straight and operate without bending at your neck or at the waist. So there are few anti-segment surgeries, especially done, and there are two major studies which have been published in 2019, and both cataract surgery and trabecular surgery has been taken into account. And here they find that conventional binocular surgeries as well as the microscope, as well as with the surgery with the HUS has been similar results. So this is a paper published in 2017, and this shows the advantage of NDSEC procedure in until they have gone to the step of the corneal entry. But disadvantage was as soon as they entered the cornea, and then there was the graft orientation, the depth of the graft lying in the over the iris, or how far it is away from the corneal to be replaced, was really a challenge during the surgery. And so we have to adjust the focus repeatedly. And same thing, overall, the difficulties what we face, or I face also, is that digital image latency which was there, and the headache or the little bit visual disturbance which I felt for a longer time of surgeries, because you had to stretch your neck and looking at the viewing system, which is a lot, almost 3 meters away from you. And sometimes it didn't give the easy access for the sisters or assisting nurses who are assisting you. Their intrusion into the visual field was also a little bit disturbing. So this is how I'll show you both the type of simple surgery which I have done. First is the traditional surgery. You can see in the traditional surgery of pterygium surgery I am demonstrating. So you get a very sharp delineation of the tissues which you are cutting or which you are dissecting. And in contrary, when I tried to engine the system, when I magnified more, I lost the precision. So I am doing in a low magnification, and it is taking time, because I am not able to know how much depth I have to go to separate the pterygium from the Bowman's layer in case of the ingenuity. So once we do that, but however the end, we can finish both the surgeries successfully. But I felt that ingenuity took a lot of time for me to handle the procedure for the proper completion. The second also is a traditional basic corneal tear management. You can see I am started with the ingenuity system first. And here also, when I started to do the high magnification, I lost the edges of the wound and I lost the focus sharply. So I again reduced to low magnification so that I can see the field very nicely. And I had to put the sutures without seeing the edges properly. Because of my experience, I just went ahead with this suturing. And you can see how the surgery proceeds. When I want to form the AC to get rid of the pupil, pupillary peaking, you can see when I picked up, separated that pupillary adhesions, then I could see that I could have already taken a bite in that, which produced a minimal iododialysis and iris bleeding into the AC. So next, you can see the same thing in audio for this routine traditional binocular microscope. So here I just want to highlight same procedure. I'm going to separate the iris adhesions in the section, and you can see how precisely you can go to the depth of the corneal suture and the layers, almost like 80 to 90% depth of suturing can be achieved very easily with this routine procedure. And also this binocular surgery in the routine with a traditional good coaxial illumination, we could perform the surgery much faster and all with much precision. So next, I can just sum up the advantages of the conventional microscope, that better depth of focus and frequent focusing is not required during the whole surgery, and there is no problems of digital image lag. Whereas in the 3D system, I had a difficulty in the depth of focus and the sharpness and around the edges of the injuries, tear management, and frequent focusing, of course, was always needed during each step when you go ahead with the surgery. And the latency was also there, which I had to cope up with time. These are the two publications which I have there. They are shown for MD6 surgeries in 2017. So for me, the take home is that magnification and clarity was excellent in the Ingenuity system. The depth, precision, and the precision required for anterior segment surgery, especially for corneal surgeries, were suboptimal. The excessive magnification of the Ingenuity system decreased the sharpness for me as to find out the tissues which are involved. Hand-to-eye coordination with simultaneous viewing of the 3D screen was very challenging. And during the surgery, the interference of the assistants also was a difficulty for me, direct visualization. So in summary, the anterior segment corneal surgeries can be performed in a traditional binocular microscope with good stereoaxial illumination until further advancement in the Ingenuity in 3D visual systems is there. So my acknowledgement is to Dr. Ninad, Dr. Naveen, and our audiovisual system and the Aurobindo system management for helping me to present myself. And thank you for your patience hearing.
Dr. Das, I would beg to differ over here. I have a huge experience of trauma. In fact, today my topic was I had shared it way back 2 years back in AIOS about the repairs and all those things which are done. What I notice is the focusing part of it yours was an imperfect one. The image quality which was showing on the video, it speaks clearly that the focusing you had not taken care. Otherwise, the depth perception, even for a corneal repairs to pterygiums to every other procedure, is better. That is what our study, which is getting published in July in IGO, will highlight about it. But I would still pinpoint that your focusing was wrong. The initial baseline focusing, which has to be done, has not been done in your cases. I think you will need more guidance on that. Probably this is just an initial part of learning curve.
Yeah, probably you're correct, Prasanth sir, because that is how we started doing in the basic surgeries. So I wanted to record the basic surgeries first to see how I am comfortable with, and so that I can proceed for the DMEC or DSEC surgeries.
Yeah, you should take the help of Alcon support system technical team, how to focus the anterior segment. Once they help you out initially, then you will overcome all this. Your video quality itself speaks it is out of focus. And that's why you have to play. In fact, in Ingenuity, you are away from your foot switch. I don't have to use my left foot just for focusing once I have done it for a particular reason. Even in a phaco or even in a vitreoretinal procedure, unlike in analog microscope, where I'm supposed to use fine focus on and off. Here, that is the advantage because it has more depth where it has a good focus. That is what is called depth of focus, which is more superior optically as well as technically, which is 40 to 60% better than analog. So please take help of Alcon support say.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the nice suggestion. Yeah, we have to improve on this. Thank you so much.
So thank you, sir. Thank you for your inputs. And next, we'll go to the how this system is being used in glaucoma surgery. And we would like to invite Dr. Sharmila, our senior consultant, who will be talking to us on the glaucoma in using the 3D system. Over to you, Dr. Sharmila.
Thank you very much, sir. I thank the AOSC for accepting the course and thank Dr. Naresh for giving me this opportunity. So having seen Dr. Prashant's surgeries, it is really very surprising that you can do so many procedures for anterior segment using the Ingenuity. Because it is usually done by the retina surgeons. And then when we thought of putting this course and when Dr. Naresh asked me, I was thinking, is it possible to do this, especially the tube surgeries, which we find it very difficult even with the analog microscope. So let me share my experience here. I'm going to be talking about trabeculectomy and tube surgery. Is it any better in 3D? So we all know we went through the evolution. In 1994, probably we were just with the 2D system, and now we are in the world of 3D, where we visualize what we see and we really live in the experience of 3D. So why 3D in glaucoma surgeries? Definitely for better visualization, augmented reality, better depth resolution, more magnification, extended depth of field, better ergonomics, and most importantly, when the surgery is going to take a longer time, it's going to be comfortable for the surgeon if you're not going to strain your neck, and therefore increase the efficiency and performance of the surgeon. And also, it is less phototoxic to the patient. So when do we prefer 3D in glaucoma surgeries? I would like to prefer it in case of non-penetrating deep sclerectomy, where you really have to go and dissect a deeper layer of the sclera. So you have to have a better depth perception and better visualization of the structures. We have to raise two flaps. A deeper flap is usually very challenging. So in such situations, a 3D will be very, very helpful. And also in viscocanalostomy, a trabeculotomy to visualize the Schlemm's canal to see for the gush of aqueous. It's very important to have a good magnification and depth perception. And also in minimally invasive glaucoma surgeries, especially the angle surgeries where you're going to put a stent, a glauco stent in the TM, or any canaloplasties or 360 degrees of canaloplasties and any ab interno procedures involving the angle. All this is going to be very helpful when we have a better magnification and better depth perception. And also in the revision surgeries, in the bleb revision surgeries, to exactly know where exactly is the problem and to visualize that particular area and target that. And most importantly, for teaching our postgraduates and the fellows, they will be in a unified OR, and it is very easy for them to understand each structure better with a better depth perception. So previous speakers have told enough about the heads-up surgery. It's definitely going to be very useful for the ergonomics, and it's going to improve the surgeon's performance as well. So this is how it is, like you've been conventionally doing with the heads down position, and now it is like heads up position. It is really very, very nice to do this surgery like this. So this is trabeculectomy surgery, which I have done under the Ingenuity system. Initially, there is always a transition phase because we are all used to one particular system. And whenever we move on to the next, there is definitely some learning curve involved. That is something which we all have to go through it. So that was the initial feeling which even I had, because we are not used to looking at the screen and visualizing the structures and doing it. But thankfully, it was not all that bad. This was like the first surgery which I recorded. So it went on quite smoothly. It was very nice to visualize the structures. Actually, the depth of perception, basically seeing the surgical limbus, where it is the blue and the white zone meeting, and all these things are very, very good for teaching as well. So this is a case of a combined phacotrabeculectomy, which was done in a patient who had angle closure glaucoma. So first we do a twin site. So first the trabecular flap was raised superiorly, and then I shifted temporally, did the phacoemulsification, and implanted the foldable 3-piece lens. So then we move on again to the superior side, complete the trabeculectomy. So this is the anterior chamber entry. So there is better magnification, that is visualizing the structures better. That is, you're able to understand where you are, and you are in the right zone. So very good depth perception is there. So that is itself is a very good experience. It's a very good feeling to see everything so magnified, unlike the analog microscope. When you increase the magnification, actually the field will get diminished there. So this is very good for visualization, and also for suturing, to see the exact level of taking the sutures, whether you need a lamellar 90% thickness. And so assessing all that, the depth of suturing and also the depth of incisions are all very, very good in the 3D system. So thankfully, this was my first case, and it really went on very well. And the patient was also very good the next post-operative day. So this is a combined phacotrabeculectomy. So next, I did another patient who had this was actually a combined procedure. This patient was had spherophakia with glaucoma. So it was an RD with lensectomy vitrectomy procedure. So here again, why it is more important for the tube surgeries is because, again, better visualization, to visualize the muscles better, to see where exactly we are hooking the plate. This is an RD which is being done. So it is the muscles are all visualized well. It is separated so well. Sometimes you will not be able to differentiate between the thick tenons and the muscle fibers. So visualizing all this is very, very good with the good magnification and the 3D system. And also this step is also something which I find very useful, because to understand where we are taking the needle, sometimes the patients may be having a very thin sclera. So it is very important to make sure that we do not perforate by blindly taking a throw on the sclera. So visualization of the depth at which we are taking the sutures, and also visualizing the fibers, even a minute change can be visualized very well. The tube is being fixed here, and this particular step is also very, very useful, because you have to see the flow of the aqueous, and most importantly, when you're occluding the tube, tube occlusion has to be done in non-valved implants. So here, in order to ensure that there is no flow through the tube, we need to have a better magnification. Unlike the analog microscope, here I was able to visualize the no flow through the tube after occlusion. So all these steps I find is better than the conventional analog microscope. Of course, there is a learning curve. This is again probably the second case I have done under the Ingenuity system. Like Dr. Manoranjan was telling, even I had a little difficulty in focusing, but then over time I just got over it. Maybe the initial focus, like what Dr. Prashant was suggesting, so that we may have to look into that. So we can see that the tube has been put inside, and it was in the vitreous cavity. So is it any better? Definitely for teaching, I would recommend this, because we are all in the unified OR. The assisting nurse knows what I'm doing. The person who is the fellow who's observing also knows each step what I'm doing, and I can just teach just when I'm doing. Better visualization with better perception, better ergonomics, better magnification, better resolution. And for a long surgeries like the RD procedure or the AGV, we do not cause much of phototoxicity to these patients. So it's a unified OR, improved collaboration with the OR staff, provides better depth, focus, and clarity to the surgeon. And also surgical training can be done through a wireless communication. So through the Bluetooth, we can even not actually be in the OR, but still we can communicate with the resident or the fellow who's doing it. So this is a very good facility. And then, my previous speakers have talked enough about the magnification. Yes, definitely it has a better magnification, improves the performance of the surgeon, better surgical tasks, extended depth of field, accentuate details for delicate procedures. Ergonomics in glaucoma procedures in MIGS requiring gonioscopy, microscope has to be tilted up to 30 degrees. Using oculars, the posture of the surgeon's neck also becomes very strenuous. But with this new 3D system, the heads-up surgery, it definitely gives a better comfortable position. I think it should be a promising option for MIGS surgery, but we do not perform MIGS surgery at Arvind as yet, but in future, maybe it would be very useful. Ergonomics related to the patient factors is also something which is very important, because a couple of times I had to operate on a patient who had kyphoscoliosis, where I literally was standing when I had the when I was doing it under the analog microscope. So this could also be an answer for those patients. The microscope need not be tilted, and with the 3D visualization, it would give a comfortable positioning for the surgeon when he's operating on patients with kyphoscoliosis. The surgeon factors, yes, we have talked enough about the ergonomics, the comfort, and the physiological heads-up position. But I think most importantly, I lived the experience of 3D. I always had the fancy of watching 3D movies in theater, and Frozen was one very good movie which I really liked. So I lived the experience of 3D by operating on these patients. So this is from Avatar. So if anything is so fascinating, which you feel that something is coming very close to your eyes. So this is the same feeling which we will have when we are looking at the structures in the eye when we are operating. So can the 3-dimensional heads-up display improve ergonomic surgical performance in ophthalmology training compared to conventional microscope? Yes, it does. With the heads-up display, it provides better comfort to the surgeons, better depth perception, and serves as a better educational tool. However, anything comes with a few limitations. The cost is a major limitation for this. Sometimes we do have a little visual discomfort, and there is a minute time latency, image display latency is there. There is definitely a steep learning curve. We'll have to do a lot more in anterior segment surgeries, especially for trab and tubes, and maybe I have to explain
सर्जरी अभी कर सकते हैं कि नहीं क्या करें?
Motion sickness. And then future directions is incorporation of an intraoperative OCT. Displaying the live OCT image is also possible. Integration of endoscopic views into the monitor. A microscope independent camera that can slide over the patient so that there will be less concern about positioning and visual obstructions is also something which we could look forward. 8K display is also something which would replace the current 3D 4K displays, enhances the resolution of future 3-dimensional operating systems. Thank you very much for patient hearing, and I thank Dr. Naresh for the opportunity again. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sharmila ma'am, for a wonderful talk. So now I will next invite Naresh sir, who's currently a head of the department. He is one of the fastest, accurate, and the highest volume surgeon. Starting in 2017, I think he must have operated the maximum number of surgeries using DAVS, and especially performing a buccal, especially on ROP child, will make one of the best surgeons envious of his techniques. So I'll request him to share his experience in VR surgery.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, Naresh.
Okay. So thank you, AOC, and also the instructors for a wonderful course. So finally, I'll be talking from anterior to posterior. It has been spoken. I'll be talking on the vitreous surgery using the DAVS. So I've got nothing to disclose financially. So a lot of things have been spoken about the 3D vitrectomy, how it works. I'll not be repeating much, but there are certain things which are particularly very important for the vitreous surgery, which I'll be discussing. So in fact, a lot of things have changed when we are using a 3D visualizing system, because there is an accountability on part of the surgeon. Because whatever we are doing previously, it is very difficult. If you would have started the career almost 20 years ago, you'll be seeing that there'll be a side mirror for the indirect ophthalmoscope. And the investigator will be doing the indirect ophthalmoscope, will be bending in all what you call yoga positions, literally, to see what is there in the side mirror. And he'll be saying, see, there is a choroidal detachment. I don't know what he's seeing. I don't know. And he doesn't know what I am seeing, but that's how the teaching has been happening. But with this system now, we might be saying that there is other system, but with the 3D system, you know what exactly is happening. So there is a lot of accountability. And especially it is very difficult to, do away with complications, because you are accountable for all your surgeries, and everybody, including the scrub nurse, is watching what we are doing. So as it has been discussed, now it is basically, there are two types of vitrectomy system, either what you call an active or a passive. So this is a passive system which we are basically using with Ingenuity, no financial interest. And the Polaroid glasses, this is to be used by everybody in the OR, so that they know what exactly is happening with this. So without this, you'll be having a blurred vision. So even anybody who wants to watch should be wearing this. A lot has been spoken about the enhanced depth and the, what you call, the non-pixelation. When you increase the detail of a small area in this particular system, usually we'll be having pixelation on the screen when we magnify any image, but there is no pixelation happening when we are using a 3D vitrectomy system. The details are so clear, and magnification is very important, because you know what exactly you are. Previously, when we were peeling the ILM, by feeling it actually, but now you can see what you are doing. Actually, you can see the ILM and you can peel it actually. So that is the basic difference with this particular system. And as has been discussed, a lot of virtual filters are used. So in fact, we are doing a study of comparing the ILM peeling with or without staining. In fact, without staining, we are using one of these digital colors, the red-free color is used. And for visualization of vitreous, because if you see the original book of Tolentino, which talks to us about how to examine the vitreous, it says that an examiner will have to sit inside the dark room for 10 minutes, closing his eyes. The examiner will have to get his eyes accustomed, and then you should go into, or you should be in a dark room, then you should examine the vitreous with a slit lamp. That's what is the actual procedure of vitreous examination. A lot of things have changed. With the filters, it's very easy to visualize the vitreous, because leaving the vitreous in any of the vitreous surgery is going to be a nightmare, because leaving this thin film of vitreous posteriorly is going to have recurrent bleed or PVR changes in case of RD and re-RDs. So that can be eliminated by using this. In fact, it can be used as an adjunct for our triamcinolone acetate staining. The most important thing in this, which we feel as VR surgeon, is like our procedure is quite long, especially when you are using ICG, which is not used anymore. You will have to finish the entire procedure after staining the ICG within 10 minutes, because otherwise there will be a lot of phototoxicity. But in this case also, there are evidence to show that you peel the ILM in case of retinal detachment, so that you will not be having any macular proliferation following RD surgery. For that, we peel the membrane. But after peeling the membrane, sensitivity also becomes less, with phototoxicity happening. So what I mean to say basically is, usually we'll be operating with the 70 to 100% illumination when we are using the endo illuminator. The most important feature, which I feel as a VR surgeon, which is very useful, is using only 10%, or to normally we use 25 to 30% only. That is 1/4 of the light which is used for the analog we are using in this. So this drastically reduces the phototoxicity, which is going to happen because of because of the endo illuminator. And we can reduce as low as 10%, and we can use do the surgery so comfortably. So it's a very important thing which has made our system reliable in the sense for the phototoxic aspect. So this is what we are doing. So you don't need to keep at 70 or 80. And this lot has been spoken. See, many people are talking about the physical impact, but I would like to go for the visual impact also, because we are going to watch a 55-inch screen, which is usually at maybe 4 feet to 5 feet away from you. The reason I am saying why beyond back pain, another issue we will be facing is maybe after the age of 50, 60, you'll be developing cataract. But with this Ingenuity system, even if the surgeon is having 624 vision, it's still possible for him to operate on the vitrectomies and the ILM peelings without much difficulty, because the magnification of the screen overcomes your poor visual acuity. So In fact, apart from back pain, it increases the longevity of a retinal surgeon. So, and the most important thing is it's a very good communicator. Actually, you can communicate better with the fellows when they are operating. In fact, you can put a Bluetooth system, what do you call a headset to the surgeon, and you can stay much away so that the patient will not be listening to what you are talking. So, patient will not become apprehensive when you are teaching something to the patient, or vice versa when we are talking also. So these are some of the cases which we'll be talking. So first I'll go for the submacular surgery, because this is considered one as the most difficult surgery. Sorry for, I mean, so here basically what we do is, this is a case of PCV with submacular hemorrhage. You can see the hemorrhage in the vitreous hemorrhage in PCV is very thick, and the membrane, and I mean the clot under the retina is also like sort of a calcified mass. So what we do is we induce retinal detachment, that is induced by using a balanced salt solution, which is loaded to our silicone oil injector. You form blebs in 4 or 5 places, detach the retina, and then you go for a peripheral GRT by diathermycin. So after making a giant retinal tear, we are pulling the entire retina over the nasal aspect. You can see the clot is being removed from the surface of, under the retina. You can use either a cutter or a Thanos to bring it out. Many times this clot is somewhat friable, but if it is associated with CNVM, there will be a membrane which will be very chewy actually. Removing that membrane is a bit difficult. Once the membrane is removed, the retinal flap which we have raised should be treated like a giant retinal tear. So as I have told, this is a CNVM related. You can see the membrane so thick. Now the PFCL is injected over the retina is replaced, and it is treated like a giant retinal tear. Now we have started doing 2-stage, in the sense like in the first stage we do the flap. We inject the PFCL, keep the PFCL with sandwiched with the silicone oil for at least a week, and then we go for the second stage. So now we can find like we are doing the endo laser in 5 to 10 rows, treated like a giant retinal tear. Then the silicone oil is removed after. So this is the first post-op day of the same patient where we have operated, and this is post 1 month post-op of the patient, where you can see the clot has been completely removed, and temporarily you can make out the giant retinal tear which we have created. And still there is a sparing of the fovea, but there are atrophy around the fovea, but still the patient has improved in his vision. And this is a case of a pediatric RD. Pediatric RD, it's very difficult to induce the PVD. So what we have done is we call it something as a Megavis, which has been named by one of our pharma consultant. So what I do is you usually inject the PFCL. Under the PFCL, you stain the vitreous with the triamcinolone and use a good diamond dusted scraper, and you induce the PVD, because this is a very crucial step for any vitreous surgery, especially in children. If the PVD is not induced, the RD is not going to settle. We are going to have a repeated proliferation. So once it is done like a ring, this Megavis can be lifted like a ring. Once it is done, you go for the vitrectomy, and the rest of the surgery is over. So this is another case of a PVD induction, where if you see, actually, usually after the vitrectomy, when we stain, there will be thin film of vitreous, which is usually not seen. So we are staining the, after injecting the PFCL, we are staining the ILM under the PFCL. The advantage of staining the ILM under the PFCL is it doesn't require any contact time, just inject, stain, and then peel it. So once we peel this, along with that, usually the ILM also comes off. If it's not, the PVD posterior highlight comes off. If it is not done, then as I have told you earlier, you just scrape it with the diamond dusted scraper, and you should be very careful because it has got diamond dust. If it's a new one, fresh one, there is every chance that we'll be creating a lot of the holes on the retina. So once you roll it, you find the highlight, and then it is lifted. You can make out the highlight is lifted. This is very deceiving actually. If this highlight is not removed in this surgery, there is every chance. This is a case of RD with RP also. You can find the bony spicules. So this thin highlight has to be removed. Otherwise, there is going to be proliferation, and there's going to be the recurrence of the retinal detachment. One of the finest surgeries in the vitreous surgeries is the ILM peeling, because the ILM is, it's just 4 microns. So without touching the rest of the retina, peeling the ILM is always a thrill. So the magnification of this particular system helps us in felicitating the removal of the ILM without much ado. Actually, here we are doing the ILM peeling without the staining, where we have used only the what do you call the filters. And the inverted flap is usually done for the large macular hole. So here it is stained with the BBG. You can make out the magnification. Although we are not filling the entire screen with the image, we can fill the entire screen with the image. We are doing for the large macular hole, the ILM flap. So usually if the macular hole ratio to that of the ILM plug should be 2.5 times. The hole is, the ILM plug should be at least 2.5 times bigger than that of the hole of the size of the hole after removing the 360-degree ILM. The most important thing is, like, when we are having such a good magnification and such a good depth perception, very rarely you will be touching the retina. You can find actually hardly the retina is touched. Finally, you just trim the ILM, which is quite excessive, and the adequate ILM is just tucked into the vitreous cavity. And there are a lot of techniques for doing large macular hole. In fact, we now stopped doing the ILM inverted flap. We go for something called a PRP, that is a platelet-rich plasma, for closing the large macular hole and reopen the macular holes. Another thing is ODPIT, which is a very exciting surgery. Actually, we have published this recently in PJO also, like using a scleral plug versus ILM. So what we usually do is, most of these patients are quite young actually. So the PVD induction is done after staining the vitreous with the triamcinolone acetate. You can make out the vitreous is being stained with the triamcinolone because of its deposition on the ILM. Once it is deposited, use the high section. We can make out the ILM being induced. I mean, the PVD is induced. Once the PVD is induced, we go for BBG stain. And the ILM is still care to be taken not to de-roof, because in most of this maculopathy associated with the ODPIT, there will be what you call thinned out retina. So when you are doing an ILM peeling, there is every chance that you will be de-roofing the retina. And usually in the infranasal quadrant, we take a small ILM, I mean scleral flap. You can see I have replaced one cannula with a 23 gauge, because negotiating this scleral flap through a 25 gauge is a bit difficult. So we replace that with 23 gauge. So we go inside and take the plug and just snugly tuck it to the ODPIT. You can make out, so I can feel that when it is plugging the ODPIT. So compared to the other system, when we are using this 3D system, you can see it is now slightly fitting into. Usually this ODPIT maculopathy takes quite a long time, almost 6 to 8 months for a complete settlement. So this magnification helps us in doing this. And in other challenging situations, we are vitrectomy in diabetes. So doing a membranectomy, you can see, like, I usually use the light pipe as a second instrument in case if I'm not going for a bimanual. So the membrane is raised with the help of the forceps, and the light pipe is used as a second instrument to dissect, and the membrane peeling is done. And you can, many people say that actually they don't use any of the forceps for picking this membrane, but usually we use, because eyes we operate are quite tougher ones. And this is quite useful for the bimanual surgery also, this system, because you can find there are 3 ports already. We are using a chandelier port, and we can make out a thick sheet of membrane extending from the disc onto the mid periphery, almost just 360 degree from the retina. So the left eye, with the help of a chandelier which is illuminating the retina, the left eye is used to hold the retina, and we can use the scissors and nip the exact attachment so that there will not be much bleeding in these cases. So a bimanual surgery is always possible with this. With a greater magnification, you can make out we are snipping just the attachment, not blindly cutting. So there is a very, 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 very minimal chance of cutting the retina and making retinotomy. When we are not doing the retinotomy, that gives a very good, what you call, post-op result in these cases. Once it is done, the eye is usually operated like a regular surgery. This is a case of a trauma with a corneal tear with a mature lens. So in this case, we went in for lensectomy. leaving the anterior capsule because the lens was, you can make out it's a very small foreign body, but any foreign body can be removed using this. Once we do complete the vitrectomy, I usually go for a PVD induction so that it is easy to release the foreign body. Yeah, this is the PVD induction. And with the help of a MVR blade, we can tease the foreign body out from its site of attachment. Or otherwise, you can just use the cutter also, but it is better to use, this is an MVR, 23 gauge MVR, slightly gently tease the foreign body out of the retina. And usually we use the intraocular magnet. This is an intraocular rare earth magnet, which gets out all the metallic, not only and magnetic foreign bodies. Once it is brought to us, we use electromagnet. Probably this is the only one of its kind of currently functioning in India, I can say, because this is much older than me, also used by our founder PN sir. Actually, this is working for the almost 45-50 years now. So this electromagnet is a wonderful thing to bring the foreign body out. Yes, once it is done, yeah, the surgery is over. So not only this, any sort of foreign body can be used. So this is where we have left the anterior capsule. So just implant the IOL and go for endo laser. No tamponade used in this case. So the basic advantages of 3D system in vitreous surgery is because in a high volume setup like us, where we operate 30-35 cases a day, so it improves the surgeon's posture and reduces the fatigability actually. And the most important thing which I have been telling is a lower light. Just we use 20 to 25%, the greater magnification, and not only the back, even if the visual acuity is low, your longevity is increased. And not much of learning curve as far as the posterior segment is concerned, and wonderful teaching tool, especially when you're using some Bluetooth like that. And of course, there are certain disadvantages. The first disadvantage, which I say,
sorry to interrupt, sir, but the time is up.
Everybody's watching what you're doing, so you cannot afford to do mistake and escape. In case of hazy, there is some difficulty in operating, and white balancing, it has been eliminated now. Cost, with more and more players coming into the market and more people buying, I think we'll be having the reduction in the cost. And the most important thing is there are a lot of innovators who will be coming with the iPhone integrated 3D system also. We don't know, actually it will be bringing the cost of few lakhs. So without, I conclude and I hand over the mic to Dr. Piyush is going to talk the last talk of the day on the publications which has been done with the 3D vitrectomy, because that will help us in doing more work on 3D vitrectomy. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Piyush.
Good morning, all. So again, I'll present the current publications in DAVS. This I think will not be a comprehensive talk, just an insight into
one of the
devices. So first publication was perhaps by Eckert, who published heads-up vitrectomy for vitreoretinal procedure, an experimental and clinical study. They showed that the heads-up method is well suited for the VR surgery. Then came the article by Freeman. They showed that lateral resolution of digital 3D system was half that of ocular viewing system, and depth of field improved even at higher magnification. The next publication recommended that TV viewing system should be at no more than 1.5 meter. Maximal microscope magnification should be used to exploit lateral resolution during the macular surgery, and low to medium magnification to increase depth of field for overall vitrectomy surgery. So this is our publication in VJO, where we evaluated the utility of DAVS for high volume vitreoretinal surgery. We compared surgical experience and preferred imaging modality between DAVS and analog microscope for performing various VR surgical maneuvers. So all the attendees were VR surgeons. They concluded that the majority of surgeons preferred DAVS, but they preferred an analog microscope for anterior segment procedures and complicated situations like small pupil, corneal edema, and surgical surprise. But it was very easy to adapt to DAVS. There are a number of similar publications. Long-term day-to-day use of 3D heads-up visualization system showed its safety and outstanding teaching potential in all ophthalmic subtypes with high surgeons confidence for retina and cataract. Ingenuity system can be integrated into the future robotic interventions, and most of the such publications have been using Alcon because it is the most used system, and Alcon 3D vision system possesses favorable ergonomics, illumination levels, depth of field, displaying filters, and training experience. So one of the major uh, people thought was that it cannot be used for ILM peeling. So this was a publication in Oculus Surgical Laser and Retina. We compared the ILM time, ILM peeling time in with microscope and DAVS, and found that the surgical time was almost equivalent. Number of attempts and number of complications was almost similar with both. Other publications have also proved the same thing. Then the other apprehension was the outcome with RRD. So we published this in International Ophthalmology, where the results of RRD were compared with DAVS as well as the analog microscope. So what we found was that all steps of vitrectomy could be performed with relative ease and comfort with DAVS platform. The anatomical and functional outcomes of RRD were favorable with DAVS and comparable to the conventional microscope. The other publications are there, and they have also showed the same results. Now, coming on to the next step, it is that the DAVS can be integrated with the other things. So it can be integrated with OCT, and the overlay of OCT data into the monitor seem to provide excellent visualization of the OCT details. Same screen viewing of multiple videos and other clinical information feeds is a promising modality that may be considered in management of patients with surgical vitreoretinal disease and should be purposefully incorporated in future iteration of the DAVS technology. This was about the VR surgery. It has been used in cataract surgery, and it has been shown that the implementation of heads-up 3D visualization of cataract surgery seems to offer similar safety and efficacy as traditional binocular microscope. Another study that was published recently in IJO showed that the digital image and digitally assisted cataract surgery were enhanced by intracameral illumination. So considering contrast and color balancing in 3D cataract surgery, intracameral illumination may be better than the microscope illumination. It has been used for the cornea surgeons also. They say that performing DMEK using 3D display system is feasible. However, it may be more challenging and can take total time. The method will certainly be more useful for instructional courses. We have come a long way, but still a long way to go. And we look for a better partnership between the doctor, the engineer, and the innovator, and the entrepreneur. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Piyush. So this idea of presenting the publication is like we can collaborate more with anti-segment surgeons. We can come up with more publication using this integrated system, because as it's very limited people are using. But
Naresh, there is a echo. We can't hear you.
Coming.
Sir, please
Would you
mute
like
one
to
of the-
add something, sir? Because we've come to the conclusion. Anything you want to add, Dr. Prashant, sir?
No, there was a echo. We couldn't
No,
hear
you
you.
are muted actually.
I have unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
We are not hearing you.
Sir, you're audible, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Oh, Naresh, can you hear me now? I think the problem is at there.
Yeah, it's fine.
Naresh, there is a echo. There are two devices in your room.
Sir,
Oh,
three
Out of
devices.
the device, there is a lot of echo.
Now it's fine.
No,
No, sir. There are 3 devices.
Now it should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. It's good.
yeah, go ahead, Naresh. Now you.
No, I'm asking you to add further points before we continue.
Yeah, in fact, Naresh, the display of your cases was fantastic. I really envy you with having so much of clinical work and surgical work. I would love to be in your shoes in a short time.
Oh,
Or beware, I might replace you. Thank you. But it was a fantastic display. But overall, for the viewers' sake of viewers, let us summarize. As Madam has said, even for glaucoma procedures, I have already demonstrated the use for cataract surgeries. Naresh has shown the beautiful use of it in vitreoretinal procedures, be it a submacular surgery, macular surgeries, or peripheral vascular retinopathies. And so also Dr. Das has shown you a bit of difficulty in corneal procedures, which I'm sure he will overcome with time by proper adjustment from his team. It's a fantastic tool, and sheer magnification at which you operate can make your life more predictable, and the results are awesome. And therefore, I would recommend from the bottom of my heart, without any financial, implications that it is the system for today as well as tomorrow. Naresh,
Thank you.
over.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. So with that, we come to the end of, because the dialogue box doesn't have any questions. So with that, we come to the end of our session. Hopefully, we'll do it next year also. Thank you, Dr. Sharmila, Dr. Piyush, Dr. Prashant, and Dr. Manoranjan for having a wonderful IC. Thank you once again. Thank you, AOC. Thank you all.
Thank you,
sir.
doctors. This is the hall
Thank you so
coordinator.
much.
Thank you, Naresh, for
All
this
the doctors
opportunity.
for this
Yeah,
wonderful
yeah.
session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
By this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.